Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a little while since I've posted any content on here, and that's mostly because I've just been busy with little things here on the truck, and actually I've gotten to take it to 2 shows. So as you can see in the beginning of the video, I actually got to take the truck up to the Oregon State Fair in Salem, Oregon for a 2-day show, and really that show went very well. We got a call about a day and a half before I needed to be at the show. It was kind of a last minute deal. Can you bring the truck up and run it? I agreed to do that. So we got back here to the shop, repaired that tire that was leaking. As actually the seam of the wheel was leaking. I got that repaired. We loaded up, shot up to Salem for that 2-day show. And really the only complaint I have at that show was the rear steer being a little bit slow. If you remember in the video where I did the repairs on the cylinders and replumbed the rear steer, I had noted that the rear steer seemed like it might be a little bit slow. Well, in the beginning of this video, you can see that venue that we were at was actually a pretty small arena, and that definitely exploited the slow rear steer. So that was something I was going to have to address once I got home. And then right last minute, as we were coming home, the show was completely over, but as I was backing the truck up to the trailer to tire it down, I ended up having an issue with it going into reverse. Either way, we got the truck back home. I dug into the reverse problem a little bit, and I found a little bit more iron and, well, a little bit more metal and clutch dust in the transmission pan that I would like to have seen. So I ended up pulling the transmission completely out. The problem ended up being was the second gear apply band and a little bit of extra wear on the direct drum in the transmission. I did go ahead, ended up taking the transmission completely apart and changed the second gear band, touched up that drum. And while I was in there, I went ahead and threw all new apply seals on all the pistons and whatnot. Clutches and steels look like brand new steel, so they all ended up going back in the case. Took me a couple of days to get the transmission all freshened up and put back in the truck. But since then, it has worked flawlessly. The problem with not going into reverse was actually some of that material had gotten, it was sticking a spool that has to shuttle in the valve body to actually get into reverse. So obviously the valve body come completely apart and cleaned when I was freshening everything else up. After doing the transmission, I looked into doing 24 volts for the rear steer. And long story short, I ended up wiring in a 1224 relay to use for both the cranking the engine over and running the rear steer pump. Both those functions would be run in 24 volt using a series parallel series relay or switch, whatever you want to call it. I got that all wired in the truck, and really I was not that impressed with the increase in speed on the steering. It just didn't work out the way I wanted. So that leads us into the second show. So in the second show, I ended up having a little bit of trouble with that 1224 system on the first night. Again, the second show was actually in Elko, Nevada, and it was a 2-day show. First night, we had a little bit of trouble with the 1224. I ended up burning up a starter, cranking it too long on 24 volt. That was all my fault. And then the second day, I just didn't want to risk having any trouble. So fortunately, that show in Elko is only 120 miles from my shop here. So Saturday morning, I run home, grabbed my spare starter and everything I needed to do a 1224 delete on the truck. Pulled everything back off of it, put the truck back the way it was, and pretty much had a flawless show for Saturday night. So here, I'll post videos of that stuff, just some quick clips of Elko, and then we'll come back and kind of recap from there.
The freshest monster trucks in the industry, 100% custom built and documented on the Skiplink YouTube channel. Dreamed up by his daughter, let's hear it for Leroy and Allison Wilson. Alright, there's lots of different kinds of leads and sky leads and stock leads. Goodness, that is one angry monster truck right here. And the time is 3.99. That's going to make Midnight Panic your fastest qualifier, including the combined times right there.
So I would definitely call the Elko show a success. Really, Saturday night went well. Even Friday night, for the little bit of trouble that we had with the 1224 stuff, the show went good. The truck ran good. It worked okay, other than the couple little issues. But like I said, Saturday night went flawless. I was super happy with that show. It was really nice to be able to just load the truck up, bring it home, and just wash it off and pull it here in the shop. While I was deleting the 1224 system, I did end up replumbing the rear steer cylinders so that they are back to just running on the barrel ends of the cylinders. So essentially we are back to the way it was plumbed for the first couple of shows, where it was breaking the cylinder, the ends of the cylinders off. The only major difference is now I have that pilot operated dual port check valve. So even with just the single ends of the cylinders plumbed in, that valve works perfect. And the rear steer itself is actually working really good, I think. I'm happy with the speed so far, and really happy that it's not breaking parts anymore. There were a couple other little projects that went on. I'm actually kind of saving that footage because I think it's worthy of its own video. And that mostly has to do with our safety equipment. If you remember back earlier in one of the earlier videos, I had mentioned how Allison and my head move around in the truck far more than I think it should. So what we ended up doing was getting Allison a new helmet that fits her head properly. I added the containment halo on her seat to keep her head from moving side to side. Both of us have new head neck restraints. She ended up with the Hans that I bought, and then I ended up buying a Zamp brand head neck restraint, which worked. It was okay, but then I lucked out and ended up getting a really nice carbon fiber Hans unit that is really tall, exactly what I was looking for. But I'm not going to go into that into any depth on this video. Just letting you guys know, maybe watch out for a future video, maybe even the next video. We'll go more into depth on what we've done as far as I've moved my seat. We still are going to move Allison's seat up for better visibility for her. But I think it'll make a good video to talk about. You know, I have 4 different styles of head and neck restraint here. Maybe we'll sit down and kind of do a comparison and go over why we decided to go that route, and you know, why we decided to make the changes in seat location. But that's pretty much going to do it. Kind of a short video. I'm still working on getting content when we're there at the show. I think I'll get better at getting actual content of the truck performing when I get the truck better at just performing. You know, less stuff in between shows and less worrying about keeping the truck running properly at shows. Once I get it dialed in to where the truck is just reliable, then I can focus more on the actual content of the truck performing. So bear with me a little bit there. We're working on it. As for this video, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. As always, thanks for watching. Have a good one. Now, once the transmission was back together, I got it in the truck. I'm just rambling and rambling.